should start the problems now.
Okay, so I'll start with the problem C. Looks easy. So what we're given this problem is we have a robot which is at a coordinate x1 comma y1, and it has to go to point x2 comma y2, and we are given that in a single step that robot can move into coordinates which is on the x-axis or the y-axis, or in the all the 8 directions that can move. It's given. So what exactly do we mean by that is, if we have a robot at coordinate this, it can move to all this point, this point, this point, this point, this point, this point, and this point, and this point. All the 8 points the robot can move. And so what we have to find is, we are given the start position and the end position, and we have to find the minimum number of steps to get to the finished position. So what we have to do in this question is exactly see the examples and analyze that what would be the solution for this question. There's nothing much in this question. So let's take the example first. For 0, 0 at x1, y1, and the endpoint as 4, 5. So if we mark it here, 0, 0 is here, and 4, 5 is in here. So we have to reach here from 0, 0 from to this point. So we already know that if we want to reach to from 0, 0 to 1, 1, the least number of steps would be to just go diagonally to reach here. So that's what we'll do. To reach 4, 5, we can first go diagonally up till 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 step, until we reach the same column in which 4, 5 is, because 4, 5 the column number is, sorry, the x-axis is at 4, so we can reach the 4th axis, and then we can just go vertically up from there. So number of steps will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's take another example like 3, 4 and 6, 1. So 3, 4 would be somewhat here, and the example is 6, 1. So 6, 1 would be here. So to go from 3, 4 to 6, 1, we can first go diagonally here, 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps. So in 3 steps we can reach this point. So what we have to see in this question is we are first going diagonally, and then if we reach the same column or either the same row, we can then go vertically or horizontally. But it's not that complex to solve this question, because if we see the formula for this question, like we are going from 0, 0 to 4, 3. If we take the absolute difference between x1, x2 and y1, y2 and take their max, so this will give us answer of 4. So let's take an example of 0, 0 and 4, 3. So first we can go diagonally 1, 2, 3, and then we can go horizontally 4. So that would be the minimum distance to go from 0, 0 to 4, 3, which is also max of absolute of x1 minus x2, comma absolute of y1 minus y2. So that's what this question is. You just have to see the examples and write the solution. Obviously, it's not a very trivial question, I can say, but so this will be the code of this question. We'll take the input first and just output the max of absolute of x coordinates and absolute of y coordinates. It's just an observation based question, so this will be the answer of this question. So does anyone have any doubts or something? Am I audible?
Yes. I guess
maximum?
Yes, you're audible.
What?
Why we are taking maximum of the two values?
Yeah, because if we see the examples, the answer is coming from maximum only. That's why we are taking maximum. I mean, I just found the answer first and just saw that what exactly we are getting that answer from. So that's why.
Okay, let me say, if we have to consider it in another way, like we have to travel at least the x distance, the distance that is the x distance, and also the y distance at least. Now, whichever is the smaller, let's say from 0, 0 to 4, 3, the y distance is 3 units, the x distance is 4 units, right? Now, whichever is smaller, let's say 3 units is a smaller distance here. Now, for that part, I can consider the diagonal ones, right? Because for x distance also I have to move in the x direction. For y distance also I have to move in the y direction. Now, while moving in x direction, that is the larger one, I can consider the smaller ones at that time only. That is the I can while I go 1 unit in the x direction, then at that time I can go 1 unit in the y direction also. So the smaller parts get covered in that part only. But the larger part, that is the x distance here is the larger. 1 unit will still remain after covering 3 units. So the larger part will still be there. So I have to take the larger one from that too. Is this clear now? Like, is the intuition
Yes.
clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so you can go on with the next question.
Okay, so we should go with D. I'm sharing my screen. Yeah. So problem statement name itself is too long. So just be patient while we read the problem statement. After that, we will think of how we can approach the problem. Okay. The problem statement is the R1 company has recently bought a high-rise building in the center of Moscow for its main office. It's time to decorate the new office, and the first thing to do is to write the company slogan above the main entrance to the building. Okay. The slogan of the company consists of N characters, so the decorate hung a large banner N meters wide and 1 meter high, divided into N equal squares. Okay, looks like an array or a string. The first character of the slogan must be in the first square of the poster, second character must be in the second square, and so on. Okay. Of course, the R1 programmers want to write the slogan on the poster themselves. To do this, they have a large ladder which was put exactly out the k square of the poster. Okay. Initially, our ladder was at the kth square. To draw the ith character of the slogan on the poster, you need to climb the ladder standing in front of the ith square of the poster. This section, along with climbing up and down the ladder, takes 1 hour for a painter. The painter is not allowed to draw characters in the adjacent squares when the ladder is in the front of the ith square. Let's say you are at the second square, so you can't write the ladder on the first square and third square. Okay. Because the uncomfortable position of the ladder may make the characters untidy. Okay. Besides, the programmer can move the ladder in 1 hour. They can move the ladder either a meter to the right or a meter to the left. Drawing characters and moving the ladder is very tiring, so we have to write a program for this. Develop an optimal way. Okay. Now let's think about how we can approach this question. In the question, we are given a string. Let's take. Okay. Let's say we have to write this string. NAGOLS. And let's assume our initial ladder position was this. So our K was at this position. How we can do is, first at this position, what we have to write? We have to write G. Okay. So we will write G. Now it's our choice whether we either we can move right or either we can move left. Let's say we have to move left. So what we will do? We will move. Let's say we will move right. We can move in any direction. So if we move right, we will move right, and then at this position we will print the letter. Then again we have to print on these squares also, so we will move another step right, and then we will print the letter. Then we will another step, we will move right, and then we will print the letters in that position. Now we are done with this part, this right part, but this part is left, so we have to come back to write the letters on that squares. So we will move left, again we will move left, again we will move left, until we come to the that square. Now this square is empty, so we will write the letter required in that position, and now again we will move left, and we can write the letter in that position, right? After that, we have written all the letters, so our task is completed. But how many steps did we take? We moved 3 steps in the right, so we take 3 steps. Now we came back 3 steps, so we took 3 steps again. After that, we moved one this step to move again left. After that, we took 2 extra steps, right? How many total steps did we take? We take 2 into 3 plus 1 plus 2. How much is this? 9. Okay. another example we will consider when we will move left first and after that we will cover the right part. So let's draw the string again. Our initial case position was this. So at this position we will print the required letter. So this is G. After that, in previous example we see that we moved right. In that example we will try to move left. So we will move left and after that we will print the required letter in that position. Again we will move left and we will print the required letter in that position. Now we are done with this left part, but this part is still empty, so we have to come to the right to write letters on that position. So we will move right, again we will move right until we reaches the that square. Now we reach that square, we will print the letter on that position. Again we will move right, we will print the letter on that position. Again we will move right and print the letter on that position. Now we are done with the string, we have completed our task. But how many steps did we take? We moved 2 steps left, again we came back 2 steps, we moved this 1 step, and after that we moved these 3 steps. How many steps did we take? We take 2 into 2 plus 1 plus 3. How much is this? 8. Okay. In our question, we are given that we have to choose the optimal way and we have to make the task in minimum time possible. Okay. So we will choose that part which takes less steps. So for that, we have decided that we will move left, right? Now what we were doing is we were doing that if in that position we do left and then again we come back to cover that right part. What if that right part is not there? Let's say in our position, if initial k was this, now what we can do is we can print the letter on that position, we will move left, print the letter on that position, move left again and print the letter on that position, print letter, then move left, print letter, then move left. Now do we have to come back because there is no right part? We don't have to come back because there is no right part to cover more. But why we don't have to come back? Because initially the k was at the rightmost position, so we don't have to come back. Another case you can think of when the k was at the leftmost position, because we don't have to cover the left part again. So if the k was there, now what we can do, we can write the letter on that position, then move right, then again move right and write the letter similarly. Now after that we reach that square. Now we don't have to come left again because there is no left part to cover. Why there is no left part to cover? Because initially the k was at the leftmost position. So you can think of these 3 cases. If the k is at the leftmost position, you just have to move right and print the letters stepwise. If the k is, so this is our case number 1. Now if the k is at the rightmost position, so what you have to do is you have to just come left and print the letters accordingly. So this is the second case. Third case is general one. When the k in third case, the k is not at the any of the extreme position. This is not at the leftmost position, this is not at the rightmost position. It is somewhere stuck in the middle. So for that case, what you can do is, let's say our initial array is this and our k is stuck somewhere in the middle, it's not at any extreme position. So you can take the distances, you can take this distance and you can take this distance, whichever is minimum we will choose that, because this is our favorable, we have to take minimum steps. So if d1 is minimum, we will move left and we will come back and then again we will go right to cover this part. If d2 is less than d1, then we will cover this part first and then we will come back and then cover this part. Okay, so these 3 cases you can divide in your mind, and now we can see the code. This was the logic of this problem. So let's see the code for this problem. The code goes like this. Initially I've taken the input of n and k. N is the length of the string and k is the initial stage when the letter is there, initial position of the letter, right? After that, I have taken the input in the input of the required string. Now what I've done is I've decreased the value of k. Why? Because in initial position in input, we are given the k in the one based indexing, but in our string we have zero based indexing. So to cope up with that, I've decreased the value of k. let's say let's say k's value was 2. That means that this is at second position, but in our string this will be first position, as string indexing starts from 0, so this will be 0 first. So that's why I've decreased the value of k to cope up with the zero based indexing. Now I've declared a flag variable. Why? I'm assuming that I will move right. If flag equal to true, that means I will move right. Just wait. I'm assuming that I will move left. Okay. How I'm measuring the distances, k less than n minus k minus 1. What this says, then we will see. So k will be this distance, and n minus k minus 1 will be this distance. If k is less than n minus k minus 1, then we will move accordingly. Now we come in that part. Okay. So let's say we move to the right first. Okay. Accordingly, we will decide by the distances. So if we were at initially at kth position, we will print that letter. We will print the letter si, and after that we have to go right. How much we have to go right? Until we are at last bottom most position. So if the k was this, we will print letter, then we will go right. We will print letter, then we will go right, until if we are at the last position, we don't have to go right. Why? Because we are done with the string. We just have to check whether we are, is there any part left in the left position or not. Then we will come back if there any part is left. Okay. So first, from k to last index, I will print letter, and I will print right until we are not at the last index. Okay. Now, for if k equal to 0, return. This return 0 is for int main, that after that it will not it will not run the program anymore. So what this condition says is, this condition is if k equal 0. So k equal 0 means initially our ladder was at the starting position. If the ladder was at starting position, we don't have any left part to cover, and we have covered all the parts, so we don't have to run program anymore. So this will return the main function. If k is not 0, then the program will continue. After that, we have to come from last index to come to k again. This we have seen. We have gone to the bottom right position, and then we will come back again. So we will come from n minus 1 to kth index, and we will print left if we are not at the leftmost position, because if we are at the leftmost position, then we don't have to go left anymore. So we will print left. Similarly, now we are at k minus 1 position. We just have to cover the left part, so we will go left until we are at the 0th index, and we'll print the si letter accordingly. Similarly, we can go for the another direction, right? So if we were at kth position, so if we are going left side first, so we will print the letters at the si position, then we will go left until we are not at the leftmost position. Now if k equal n minus 1, then it will return the main function. So if k equal to n minus 1, that means that initially our ladder was at the last position. Now by coming left and printing the letters, we have covered all the strings, so we don't have any right part left, so we don't have to go right anymore. So we'll return the main function. Otherwise, is k not equal to n minus 1, that means the k was at somewhere stuck in the middle, so we have the right part to cover, so we will go right more. So we'll continue the program. Now we will go right until k, and now we don't have to print, and just we will go right because we have already printed. From k plus 1, we will start to print the letters, and just we will print right until we are not at the last index. If we reach the last index, then the string will be over and our task is over. So this was the code. If you have any doubts, you can ask. Hello.
I guess they don't have any doubt, so we can continue with the next problem. Uh, I think next problem will be solved by Mayur. So Mayur, you can go for it.
Yeah, all right. Harsh, can you stop presenting your screen? Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll go with the E problem. The problem states that Ashish has an array A of consisting of 2 n positive integers. He wants to compress A, that is the array, into another array that will be named B of size n minus 1. So the initial array has 2 n integers that all are positive, and he wants to compress it into a new array which will have a size of n minus 1. So for this, what will he do? To do this, he first discards exactly 2 elements from A. That is, he will delete any 2 elements from the initial array. Then after deleting 2 elements, there will be 2n minus 2 elements still remaining. So for the remaining elements, what will he do? He will remove any 2 elements from A and append their sum to B. So there are 2n minus 2 elements remaining. And from that 2n minus 2 elements, he will take 2 elements at a time, take their sum and add it, means add that number into the array B and remove those 2 elements. So since there are 2n minus 2 elements, so the new array B will contain n minus 1 elements. Now, the compressed array B has to have a special property. What is that property? It is that the greatest common divisor, so GCD of all else elements should be greater than 1. That is, the array B will have n minus 1 elements, and the array B will be like that, such that all the GCD of all the elements should be greater than 1. Now, we all know what is GCD. GCD is basically the biggest integer that is a divisor of all numbers in the array. So we have to find a we have to write a program so that we can do the same thing. So the input format is, the first line will contain t, that is the number of test cases. The next line will contain a single integer n, that is the number of if n is there, then that means the initial array will have 2n integers, right? That was stated in the question. So let's say if n is equal to 3 here, n equal to 3, then that means the array will contain 6 elements here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now for those, what will the output? We have to output n minus 1 lines. That is which pairs we are taking. That is which pairs we are taking and making the sum and adding to B. That is the thing. The ith line should contain 2 integers. The indices 1 base of the 2 elements from the array that are used in the ith operation. Right, and the 2 elements that we are initially discarding, those need not to be written anywhere. We can discard simply. We don't have to write them. And if there are multiple answers, we can find any. Okay, right? So let's go to the example. Here, the initial array is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now n equal to 3, that means the new array will have 2 elements. I'll take 2 elements at a time and compress them. And initially, I will discard 2 elements. So from 6 total, there are 6 elements. Initially, I will discard 2 elements. So I have 4 more elements remaining. From those 4, I will take 2 elements at a time. And I will sum, means add them, and then place those numbers in the new array. So for this, what they have done is, like, they have taken 3 and 6. 3, 6, they have 6, they have added them. That's 3 and 6, they have added them. The summation is 9, right? Summation is 9. So they have added that number into the new array. And for the second pair, what they have taken is 4 and 5. These two numbers they have taken. Their sum is also 9. Their sum is also 9. So the total GCD is 9. 9,9. The GCD is 9, which is of course greater than 1. And they have discarded these 2 elements. 1 and 2. They have discarded these 2 elements. For the second group, there are 4 elements, and I have to form a new array which will have 1 element. So I have to find only one pair, right? For that one pair, what they have done is they have taken 9 and 10. That is, these two numbers they have taken 9 and 10, and 5 and 7 they have discarded. So 9 and 10, the sum is 19, and the GCD is also 19, which is greater than 1. For the last part, the last example is this one. For this, you can see that they have taken 1 and 2. This is 1. They have taken 2. The sum is 3. They have taken 3 and 3 also. The sum is 6. They have taken 4 and 5. The sum is 9. They have taken 90 and 3. That is 93. And the total GCD is 3. Now, if you go by the example, it will look complex. Like, how can we find such pairs such that the GCD will be greater than 1? So the examples will be pretty confusing if we go by them. So I have to think of some another easy way. So for that, I'll go to the other screen. Wait. So for this, like, how can we, the condition was that I have to make the GCD greater than 1. GCD greater than 1. Now, the value GCD can be 2, 3, 4, 5, anything. It can be anything, but not 1. So how can I think about that? If you think like, I will make the total GCD 3, or I will make the total GCD 4. If I take the total GCD to be 3, that means all the numbers should be multiple of 3 at least, right? Or if I have to think like I will make the total GCD as 4, then I have to take all the numbers such that, all the summations such that they are all multiples of 4. Then only I can get the GCD as 4. But this seems pretty complex because finding all the sums as 3 or all the sum as 4 are pretty complex. Now, if you think carefully, like finding the total GCD as 2 is pretty easy here. How? Let's say I have some random numbers, let's say 5, 7, 6, 13, 12, and 10. These are n equal to 3. So there are 6 elements in the array, and I have to find a new array which will have 2 elements, that is 2 pairs of number. I'll compress them. So for them, how can I take numbers such that the GCD will be 2? Now, what does it mean that GCD is 2? GCD is 2. That is, all the numbers are multiples of 2. And what does it mean that all the numbers are multiples of 2? That means all the numbers are even, right? If I can make all the new numbers, that is the new array B will have 2 numbers, that is 2 pairs. So if I can anyhow make all the numbers as even, then I can easily get the GCD as 2, right? Now, making even number by adding 2 things, like I have to add 2 numbers and then make them even, is pretty simple, right? If I add 2 numbers such that they are even plus even, if I compress even and even, I will get an even number, right? If I compress odd and even, that is, I add them, then also I can get even, right? This is pretty easy, like, you can think of. And if I take the GCD of all the even numbers, then of course at minimum I will get it as 2. I can get any other thing also, but at minimum I will get 2 at least. So that was the simplest thing. Like, I will take the even numbers together, I will take the odd numbers together. So how can I pair them up? I will take 5 and 7, right? 5 and 7, their summation gives 12. 5 plus 7 equal to 12. I will take, let's say 6 and 12. See, these are even and even, 6 and 12, 18. See, both are even. And their GCD will be at least 2. Here the GCD is 6, but I have to find anything that is greater than 1. Their GCD will be at least 2 because they all are even. And I can discard the remaining ones. I have discarded the remaining ones because I don't need them. I have to find only 2 pairs. Pretty simple, right? Now, if I think of any other thing, let's say I have all the even numbers here. Let's say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. So I'll take these 2 numbers, 2 and 4, add them, it will be 6. I will take 6 and 8, 6 plus 8, it will be 14. Then I don't need any more numbers because at max I need 2 pairs. Since there are n here, n also equal to 3, and so I need 2 pairs. So I can discard them. Similarly for even, sorry, for odd numbers, let's say 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. I can take these numbers 1 plus 3 equal to 4. Then 5 plus 7, that is 5 plus 7. This will be equal to 12. And I can discard these numbers because I don't need them. I can discard two numbers. Or now let's take a mixture. Let's say 10, 30, 40, 60, then 75, 111, then 32, 64. Now for simplicity, I will just now, because for simplicity, what can I do? While getting the array, I will just divide them into two categories. Like I will categorize them as odd and even. So what are the even numbers? 10, 30, 40, 60, 32, 64. These are the even numbers. And what are the odd numbers? 75, 111. So from this one, I can take one pair, right? This will be one pair, then this will be one pair, this will be one pair, and I can neglect this pair because I need a total 3 pairs. So I hope you got the approach, like how can I approach this problem. First, I will divide the array into two parts, odd and even. From odd, I will take the pairs. From even, I will take the pairs until I get n minus 1 pair, because at max, in total, I need n minus 1 pair, right? So that was the whole thing. Now, I will quickly go to the coding part, but okay, I hope the screen is visible. So one more thing that in the question it mentioned to print the indices here. See, the indices are printed, not the actual elements. See here in the last one, the actual elements are not printed here. Rather, the indices of them are printed, and those are all one-based indexing. See here, here you have to print the indices. So I will take the indices only and not deal with the elements. Here, initially I have taken n and temp. I have taken n as input, that is the size, and I have taken two vectors, or you can take two arrays, anything you like. An odd vector and an even vector. The odd vector will store the indices of the odd elements. The even vector will store the indices of the even elements. So I have taken all the numbers. I have run this loop up to n times, and I have taken all the numbers as input. And if this is odd, then I have pushed the index. Since it is an one-based indexing, so I have added one here. I have, if it is odd, then I have added it in the odd vector. If it is even, I have added it in the even vector. Now I have initialized ij as 0. Here ij will be used for the indices of odd and index, means the position for odd and position for even, ij. And I have also taken the size here. O is the odd size, E is the even size. That is the size of the vector. Now, why I have taken here the size, I will say that later. Now, I have to find n minus 1 pairs, right? So I have run a for loop here, n minus 1 times. And I checked if I is less than O minus 2. Why O minus 2? Because let's say there are, in the odd vector, there are 4 elements. The index will be 0, 1, 2, 3. So I can go at once I am printing two numbers, right? At once I am printing two numbers. So I'll print at first 0 and 1, and then I'll print 2 and 3. So when it will go to 4 or anything that is exceeding the size, then I have to come out from that part, because the odd vector will not have any more elements. Odd vector have O elements, and I have subtracted 2 here, because let's say if there are 5 elements also in the odd vector 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, then I am printing 0, 1 at first time, then 2, 3 in the second time. Then when I is equal to 4, I can't get any more pair because there are 5 elements. I can't get the fourth and fifth element together because there is only 5 elements, right? So I have to come out of that part. So I have taken O minus 2 because if there are 5 elements, then 5 minus 2 is 3, and 4 is greater than 3. The statement will be invalid, so it will come out from that part and it will go to the even part. So the thing that I have done in the explanation, but the same thing I have done here, I have printed the odd ones at first, the odd elements, and then I printed the even elements here. That was the whole thing. So I hope you could get the code. Now, why I have taken here the odd size and even size separately? I could have simply written here odd dot size and even dot size. Because while I was doing that, see here, I have done the same thing earlier. Here I have taken odd dot size minus 2, but at that time I was getting runtime error because probably the size function, that is the size of vector, probably gives something, it probably returns a double value or something like that, which may cause any problem or like that. So I was getting the runtime error, and so I have changed it to int here. Here I have changed that to int, and the problem got fixed. See here. I have changed it to int and the problem got fixed here. It got accepted. I hope you understood that. If you have any doubt, you can ask.
So this will be the next question that we will be discussing. B problem seems easy. So this was a bit manipulation problem, and one of the people also asked in the chat box to actually ask for this question, that how should we approach the bit manipulation questions. So give some special attention to it. This is a really interesting problem and we will really enjoy solving it. So we'll read the problem statement first. So Danik urgently needs rock and lever. Obviously the easiest way to get these things is to ask Hermit Lizard for them. So Hermit Lizard agreed to give Danik the lever, but to get a stone, Danik needs to solve the following task. So we will be given with a positive integer n and an array A of positive integers. The task is to calculate the number of such pairs I and j such that I is less than j, and the AND value of AI and AJ should be greater than or equal to the XOR value of AI and AJ. Okay, so where AND denotes the AND operation and this symbol denotes the XOR operation. So Danik has solved this task, but can we do it? Okay, so we'll look at the input. So we'll be first given with T. We can look this while coding as well. So first we'll try to look at some examples. So this is the example I have given to us: 1, 4, 3, 7 and 10. So the answer for the first array is 1. That means that there is only one pair which satisfies this condition, where AI and AJ should be greater than or equal to AI XOR AJ. So what is that pair? That pair is 4, 7. So you can see the AND value of 4, 7 is 4 and the XOR value of 4 and 7 is 3. How is that? We can look here. Okay, so the bit value of 4 is what? 1, 1, 0, 0, and the bit value of 7 is 1, 1, 1. Now we try to take AND of it. This will become 0, this will become 0, and this will become 1. Now we take, this is the AND value, and if we take the XOR value, in XOR what happens is, if the bits are different, then it will give 1, and if the bits are same, it will give 0. So this will be the value of XOR, right? So you can clearly see the most significant bit is this one, and it is set in this one, the AND value, and it is 0 in this one. So obviously this value is bigger. And you can also check this value is actually 4 and this value is 3. So here AND was being greater than XOR, greater than or equal to. So we will say, okay, this pair satisfies our condition. And in this whole area you can't find any other pair which will satisfy this condition. And in the second pair, what will happen is 1, 1, 1. The AND value of same integers will actually, like in this one part, this will be the bit of it, and if we try to take AND, it will again give what? 1 only. But in XOR part, when you take XOR of an integer A with itself, it will actually give you 0, because as we have seen that it gives 0 when the bits are same. So in A and A, all the bits will be same and it will consequently result into 0. So all the AND values of any three pairs in this one will be 1 and all the XOR values will be 0. So we have actually outputted 3. How is it 3? You can also see that we have to select any two indices from 3. So we'll put 3C2, which is 3 only. For the next test case, you can also see 6, 5, 6, 2, 5 and 3. In this one, we can notice that 6 and 5, what will give? We can check here. So the bit value of 6 is what? 110. What was the second value? 5. The bit value of 5 is 101. Now if we take AND of it, what will we get? We'll get 0 here, we'll get 0 here, and we get 1 here. This is the AND value. And for the XOR value, what are we gonna get? In different it will give 1, 1, and here it will give 0. Again the same thing. Here it is coming out to be 4, it is coming out to be 3 here. So this satisfies the condition, and similarly 2 and 3 you can also check will satisfy this condition. So always for a bit manipulation question, you can always write the bits of the first like 8 to 10 integers. This will really help you. We will also see how this helped. So if you try to see, I first check for this one only, right? In this one only one bit is set. While we come to second, the second bit becomes checked. Now when I double 2, that is I come to 4, this bit will become set. Now when I double 4 again and come to 8, this bit will become set. Otherwise all the bits were 0 before it, right? This is a simple observation that you have to make in many questions. There were many questions like this before as well, that when we double the element, right, bits are basically what? 2 की power n, the position. So all the rest bits are 0 and they will only become set when we actually come to 2 to the power n. So it is clear that before all these powers, like before 8, all the bits here are actually 0 and all the bits before it are set. See, in every number between 4 and 8, all the bits before the most significant bit of 8 is always set, right? Similarly, you can make an observation for here as well, that between before 4, that is the numbers 2 and 3, the most significant bit, the bit before the most significant bit is always set. You can always see this for bigger examples like 9, 10, and you can write up to 16. So what will happen is when we come up to 16, the representation of 16 will be 1, 0, 0, 0. And all the other numbers will actually contain 0 here, right? And all the other numbers will always contain a 1 here. So now you might ask, where am I getting with this? Okay, we have understood that the bit before the most significant bit will always be set. So we can make an observation here that if we try to take AND of any two numbers from this range, what will happen is all the bits are set in this row, in this column you can say, or in this bit is always set. So it will always result in a 1. Right? These bits can be anything, right? I will write them with hex right now. These bits can be everything, but this will always be set to 1 because AND value of 1 and 1 is always 1. So this was about the AND value. Now if we try to take the XOR value, what will happen is, as we have already discussed, that this will always be set to 1. So if this will always be set to 1, then this bit will always result in a 0 and rest bits we don't want to notice. So you can see that in this range 5, 6, 7 and for example 9 to 15 also, 9 to 15 also you can see the same thing, that always what will happen is this bit will always be set, and in AND value it will always give 1, and the XOR value it will always result in a 0. Okay, so what we can make a generalized observation here, that between any two powers of n, any number that appears like 9 to 15 or 5 to 7, their AND value will always be greater than the XOR value. This is a simple observation that we had to make, and this was it about the question. So what we will do is we will first jump into the code to get a better idea about it. Okay, so first we had taken input of the test cases. Let me zoom in a bit. Then we have taken the input for the number of elements in the array. I made the array, then took the input for the array. Then I sorted the array. Why did I sort the array? We'll come to that in a later part. And I've initialized the start to 2. Now what is the start value? Now I have to keep track of where the values I have to keep. So I've started with 2. Then I'll jump to 4. Then I'll jump to 8, and then I'll jump to 16. So you can see in every loop, I multiply the start variable with 2. So what the start variable will do for me, it will always jump to the next power of 2. Here there's for part 2 to power 1, this is 2 power 2, 2 power 3, 2 power 4. And I was multiplied it to keep track of it. Now what I do is, whenever I have first initialized the count variable, now while I is less than n, and array I is less than start. Now what is start value? Start value is basically this pointer, right? Initially I have pointed to 2, which means it will check that if the array contains any 1. So this is why I have sorted the array, because start will actually move in an ascending order, like definitely it will increase the powers. So I had sorted the array first. Now it will contain, if it will contain any 1 value, then the counter of I will increase. And I have also implemented I inside this loop also. Then I have updated the answer, like look at this carefully. Now how have I updated the answer? Count into count minus 1 by 2. What is this? Basically this is NC2. Now for this range, you can see there are 3 integers and I have to pick any 2 of them. Now what will I write? 3C2, which will be effectively 3 into 2 by 2. And for this range there will be 9 to 15, that is like 6 integers, right? Yes, there will be 6 and you have to choose any 2 of them. Now what will this result into? 6 into 5 by 2. So basically this formula can be boiled down to n into n minus 1 by 2. This is what I have calculated here, count into count minus 1 by 2. So every integer in this range, they might also repeat, right? In the example 1 was repeated, they might also repeat. We have no problem with that, as we have seen that end value of it will always be 1 and XOR value will be 0. And also I have added a condition here that if by chance, for example, let's say count was already 0, if some condition happened where we have not found even one element in that range, in particular range, for example, let's say we have not even found one element in this range, then the counter might become negative, right? Answer, we don't want to update the negative answer, so it will actually safeguard us from that. It will always check that whether 0 is maximum or this value is maximum. It will update the answer like that. And why have I done I minus minus here? Because this while loop is actually inside a for loop, which is already incrementing I plus plus. Now you can definitely, obviously, you can make a better implementation for it. We do not need a for loop here, or we could just remove this condition. We don't need it here. And then at the last I see out the answer. So this was it for the problem. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comment section, in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself as well.
I guess
So
no
I
doubts.
hope,
You can continue.
yeah. So we can continue with the last problem. Okay, just give me a moment. Is my screen visible to all? Okay. So as the question says that don't solve it first, we won't be solving it at the first. We will be solving it at last. Okay. So this problem was fairly nice. This problem was really good problem. So we have been given a problem that I'll just not read out the problem. You can read it out. It's a long problem. I will just tell you what this problem statement means. And if you have tried to read it, I hope that you would have got to know that what we need to calculate here. So how many of you have tried this problem actually? How many of you just at least read the problem or tried to implement this? Can anyone say? You can unmute yourself and say that this is the last problem. We can discuss everything. So probably no one, right? Okay. So we can go on. So I've been given a problem that we will be given wood logs, okay, logs of wood. And we need to make a rectangle or square boxes from it. So the prerequisite for the problem, let me say you what were the prerequisite. The prerequisite were hashing. You should know what hashing is and what is square and rectangle. I hope the second point is clear to everyone, right? Every one of you must know what is a square and rectangle and what are the properties of squares and rectangles. And the second most prerequisite was hashing. Is there anyone who is not familiar with hashing? We can discuss the hashing for 2 minutes. It won't take much long time. Come on, guys, just unmute yourself and you can say.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so hashing. So there is a data structure called map where we can map key value pairs. Okay, so there is a data structure called map where we can store key value pairs, and I'll just hashing means I will just store how many number of times element is occurring in my array. That is just basically hashing. Okay, frequency, or I can say that I'm storing the frequency by this. Just for example, let me say you that you created an array. Okay, you created a vector. Everyone is comfortable at least with vector. I can assume that everyone is comfortable with vectors. If you are not comfortable with vector, then this problem is really not for you then. Is everyone at least comfortable with vectors?
Yes.
Okay, so if I have a vector, point V, and let me take it dp or something like this, and if I say that I have an array like this, 1 2 3 1 2 2 5 7. Okay, so we can say that my 1 is occurring 2 times, my 2 is occurring 3 times, 3 is occurring 1 time, and 5 and 7 is also occurring 1 time, right? In this in this array. Okay, right?
Yes, right.
Okay, so I will iterate on this array, and I will say that my dp at array, let the element of the array be x, and I will just increment by plus plus. So whenever my dp of 1 will come, it will have value initially 1, then dp of 2 will be 1, dp of 3 will also be 1, and since dp of 1 was 1 already, it will become 2. Am I making any sense to you? Am I making any sense? Am I making any sense, or is it going above your head, what I'm trying to say? Just tell me. It's not DP. I just named it like DP. It's nothing related to dynamic programming, so no need to fear about it. Am I making any sense, or is it going out of your head?
Initial value will be 0.
Initially 0. When I am iterating, my DP of 1 will become 1 because I have occurred, 1 has occurred 1 time. Then DP of 2 will become 1. Then DP of 3 will become 1. And since DP of 1 is already 1, when I'm doing plus plus here, my DP of 1 will become 2. Am I making sense till here?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So basically, like this, we can hash the frequency of the array, and this is called hashing. So I've just given a brief overview of what hashing is, and you should probably try to learn hashing because this is a really important topic, and you will encounter this topic in various other problems too. So this was the prerequisite of the problem. And the question says that you have been given wood logs. Okay. So there is one wood log of size 1, length 1, then another wood log of length 1, another wood log of length 1, and one wood log of length 2, and another 2 wood logs of length 1. Okay. And I have been given 6 queries. So this was a query kind of question. We will be given different queries, and after each query, we have to answer either yes or no. And after each query, I will be saying that either I have been plus signifies as that I have been given a wood log of length 2, and whenever there will be a minus, it will signify that I have been given I have taken an wood log of length 1. Okay. So basically, plus means I have been given, and minus means I have one wood log has been taken, and this will correspond the length. Okay. And beside this, it would be the length. And I have to say that, can I make at least one square and another square or rectangle from it? Basically, if I have 4 ones, then I can make a square from it, right? 4 wood logs of length 1, then I can make a square from it. Or if I have 2 wood logs of length 1 and 2 wood logs of length 2, then I can make a rectangle from it. Am I making any sense to you right now? What I am trying to say? So basically, I am trying to say you is that, okay. So initially, for example, I have been given a wood length. I have a log of length 1. Then I have also a log of length 1. Then I have also a log of length 1. Then I have a log of length 2. Then I have also a log of length 1. Okay. Let me see. Then, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Initially, I have been given like this, the logs. Am I making any sense? You guys can unmute yourself now. This is probably the last questions, and I want to discuss it nicely. You can unmute yourself if you have read this problem. At least few of you must unmute, yeah, please. Okay. Am I making any sense? I have been given the length of the wood logs here. Okay. So what else? What can I make from here? I can only make a square from here. Sorry. I can only make a square from here. All the length will be side 1. Right? Okay. Am I making any sense? I can make a square from here because I have more than 4 wood logs here. Then what I have been saying that in the question that I have been again given a length of wood log of length 1. Okay. So now I have one more wood log of length 1, right? So what can I do? I can make only one square right now. I can make only one square, and I cannot make another square because there is no sufficient wood logs of length 1, because after making one square, I will be only left with 2 more wood logs of length 1 and only one wood log of length 2. So I cannot make any square. Then again, I have been given. Okay, so I think I have my problem here. Okay, so again, I have been given a wood log of length 2. So what will happen that there will be 2 wood logs of length 2 and there will be 6 wood logs of length 1. So what can I do? I can make one square and one rectangle, right? I can make one square and one rectangle, right? Can I make this?
Yes, yes.
So I've been given here yes, then output yes, because in my question it is stated that you should be able to make at least one square and the other thing can be a rectangle or a square. Fine. Am I making any sense to you at this point of time? Because when I've been given one wood log of length 2, I was not able to I was only able to just make, okay, let me see. Yeah, then I have been given a wood log of length -1. It means that one wood log has been taken from me. So I cannot make a rectangle now because I can only make a square. Am I making any sense? Now this rectangle I cannot make, right?
Yes.
Hello? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Then again, what happens that I have been given a wood log of length 2. Okay, I get a wood log of length 2. So now what I have, let me maintain a frequency array here. So I have now wood log of length 1, how many wood logs I will have of length 1, and how many wood logs I will have of length 2. So initially I had 5 wood log of length 1 and 1 wood log of length 2. So when I got a wood log of length 2, this became my 2. Okay. So, and after that, I got one more wood log, then this became 6. And when it became 6, I was able to make a rectangle and a square out of it. 4 wood logs will make a square, and 2 wood logs from 1 and 2 wood logs from 2 would make a rectangle. Am I making any sense? Up to this point, up till this point, am I making any sense? Just tell me yes or no.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, okay, this was not the eraser. I don't know where is the eraser. Okay, eraser is not working here. Okay, fine. No need. So, okay. So after that, I have been taken a wood log from here. So this again becomes 5. So when it becomes 5, I will not be able to build the rectangle. Will I be able to build the rectangle? Because when I will have 5 wood logs, I can make a square. Then only I will be left with 1 wood log, and 1 wood log and 2 wood logs makes up 3. So we cannot make a square and a rectangle. So my condition will not be fulfilled. So I'll say that no, I cannot make. Am I making any sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Then I'll just add one more wood log of length 2. So this will become my 3. And I will take one wood log of length 1. So this will become my 4. And still I will not be able to make because it's not getting fulfilled, as you can see. And when again I will add a wood length of length 2. So this both of will become 4 and 4. So I can make one square from this and one square from this, right? And my condition will get fulfilled. And again I can say that yes, I can make, right? So I think problem statement is clear to you up till this time, what the problem wants to say. Now let us jump to implementation part. If the problem statement is clear with all of you. Is the problem statement clear?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So I'm just giving you a link where you can collaborate with me. We can do it in real time. If you face any doubts, you can just go on this link and just say that, yeah, I'm facing the issue. Okay. So what I'm doing is that first I'm taking the input from this part to this part. Okay. I have taken the integer n, which will be initial number of logs. I have taken a map, hash map. And then I have taken, this is a template. I have made a template. So what this line actually does is that I'll make a vector of size n, and then I will just input the vector. This is just taking the vector as input. Okay. Is the statement clear? Is anyone saying that, no, what is this kind of thing? I have never seen this statement. So this is our template. You can just basically say that I have made a shortcut kind of thing, which will just take the input. Okay, fine. Then I'm just doing the frequency. Initialize and frequency. I'm storing frequency from here. This is hashing or frequency hashing, I can say. I'll store the frequency of each element, which I just told you how to store the frequency of each element. I've taken an integer q, which will be having the number of queries that I will have. This is the integer q, the number of queries that I will have. I have taken integer, square, and rectangle. This will store how many rectangles and squares are possible to make at any point of time, right? Am I clear to all of you up till this point? I've just initialized everything. I haven't done anything till now and just stored the frequency of the array, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what am I doing is that here I am just checking that how many squares and rectangles are possible to make up till this point. How many squares and rectangles are possible to make up till this point? So the number of squares will be the hashing, the number of frequency that I have of it. And if my, so basically what can I have that? For example, I can have would log 1 can have either means any number. I can take any number. Let me think that I have number of wood logs as 5, okay, of size 1. So basically I can make just one square out of it, okay. But when this 5 will change to 6, what can I do? I can make one square out of it and one rectangle out of it. When it will be 7, what can I do? I can make one square and one rectangle. And when it will become 8, what can I do? It will become 2 square. Am I clear? What I told, did you get it? Did you get it? What I just told you right now?
Yes.
Okay. So I just stored the how many rectangles and squares are possible to make up till this point. And for all the queries, I just input the character C, which will be either my plus or minus, and an integer t, that will be the integer given. Okay. If I get a plus sign, that means log is being added to my hash map, to my log, which I can log store. So if my m%t4 is equal to 0, then what can I say that, for example, in this case, I had woodlog 1, I had the number of woodlogs as 5. Then I got plus 1. Then my woodlogs become 6, right? My woodlog becomes 6. Am I making sense? Am I making any sense? Initially, if I have the number of woodlogs of 1, 5, and if I get one woodlog of size 1, then the number of woodlogs of size 1 gets 6. Am I making any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I will say that whenever, and before this, 6. And similarly, if I had here 7, and when I got one more here, this will become 8. I think this must be also clear then, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what is happening here that I'm just converting one rectangle into an, what I'm saying, for rectangle, I have chosen here 2 because, see what I've done here. I have taken the sides. A rectangle does not mean that I can make a rectangle from it. I can say that I can make 2 sides from it. I'm just saying that I can make 2 sides from it. Okay. So whenever it is becoming 8, that means that I am just removing one side from a rectangle and adding it to the square. I'm just taking out one out from the rectangle and adding it to the square. And if at any condition my frequency becomes 2 or 3, I'm just incrementing the rectangle, and vice versa. I'm doing the opposite of thing when I just subtract it, and I just check here that if I can make more than one square from here, then I just simply output yes, or else I can make one square out of it, and more than one rectangle means there must be more than 2 sides which have at least length 2. So I can make at least one square and one rectangle, then I can output yes, or else I can output no. This was only the code. I don't think that if you know hashing, this should be easy for you. Okay, this only this much was the code. If you have any doubt, you can say that I didn't understand this part or that part. You can just come out to me. Was the code clear to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Then this was all of it. If anyone has any doubt, they can say me, reach out to me. Or you can just message on the chat box even.
Okay.
Or you can just...
Since the all the discussions are over, so if you want, like, are you all interested in listening to a second, means a different implementation for the problem that Akshat discussed that deals with B2S operations? Is anyone interested?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So since
And
Aditya has already
I
explained
also want you
hashing,
to look at my code, like where I'm wrong.
Okay, sure. Just after this, I'll check. Since Aditya has already discussed hashing and map, so it will be easy for me to explain my implementation also. Okay, first of all, tell me why is the leftmost bit in the binary system called the most significant bit? Anyone? Why is the leftmost bit is called the most significant bit?
Because it decides the sign, whether it is positive or negative.
No. It's not about the sign. Ignore the sign bit. Just the
Okay,
value
so
part.
it's the power of 2 means 2 raised to the power n. So greater the number power n will be the greater the value.
Yeah. So the main thing is why it's called most significant, because it is the highest value. Out of all the bits, it is the highest value. So one demonstration for this is that let's say consider these two numbers here, 100 and 011. Which one is greater? Out of these two numbers, which one is greater?
First one.
The first one. Now see why? Because the most significant here. Let me change the color. The most significant bit in the upper number is here 1, and the next most significant bit in the lower number is 0. See here in the upper number, this is 1 and all are 0. But in the second number, this is 0 and all are 1. Still, it is greater because in the most significant bit, this is 1. If I can convert them into decimal part, it will be 8 and it will be 7. So what does this mean? This means that if in the most significant bit, the bit is 1 and for the second number the bit is 0, then this will of course be 1. Whatever may be the other numbers, I will consider them as cross. They doesn't matter. If there's a difference here in the most significant bit, one is 1 and the other has 0, so the one which is 1 is the most significant bit will for sure be greater than the other one. This is one important observation that you should remember. So using this, I will come to the approach. So if you have observed in Akshat's approach, you must have noticed that for getting the possible pairs, that is the pairs that we need, the most significant, that is the first bit where 1 appears, has to be the same. Only those numbers that is 1, that is 1, that is the first occurrence of 1 from left side, in the same position, that is the most significant bit as 1, in the same position, they will only be considered valid, else all others are invalid. Let's say for this example here I have taken 01000 and 01010. If I take the end value is 01000 and the XOR value is 00010. So here the end value is greater. And here also, like, why it is greater? Because here, if I take the end value of this is 1, this gives me 1. And of course, this part is 0 for both the cases. But for this bit, the end value will give me 1 and the XOR value will give me 0. And this is the first place where I get the difference. So I can neglect these 3 positions. Here I have gotten the difference. One is 1 and the other one is 0. And so for sure, I can say that end value is greater. So from that, I can say that, like, if I found 1, that is the first occurrence of 1 in the same position, then for sure I can say that the end value will be greater than the XOR value. And this is a valid pair. Now let's take the other case where the first occurrence of 1, here first occurrence of 1 is at the second position. And for this number, the first occurrence of 1 is at the first position. Now for this, say, here the end value for this is 0. The end value for this is 0. And the XOR value is 1. And I have gotten a difference here in the first position itself. So I can neglect these parts. These parts can be neglected because these are not significant. So here you can see that the XOR value is greater. XOR value is greater. That is, since the first occurrence of 1 is in different positions, so the end value becomes 0 and the XOR value becomes 1. And as the XOR value becomes 1 in the most significant bit, so it becomes the greater. So now let's take the other example, which I started in the beginning. 01000 and 01111. Here, if I take the end value, the first one will be zeros in both cases, and for and XOR, for the next bit, the AND value will give me 1 and the XOR value will give me 0. And for the next ones, the AND value will give me 0, 0, 0, and the XOR value will give me 1, 1, 1. But I can neglect these ones. These are not needed since I have gotten the difference here. So you can see, since the first occurrence of 1 in both the digits, both the numbers is at the same place. So the AND value becomes greater in this case because here AND is 1 and XOR is 0, and I can neglect the remaining ones. So this is a valid pair. For all other cases, if the positions are different as in here, I can neglect this part. Means these are not valid pairs because the AND value is smaller and the XOR value is greater. Is this part clear? Okay. So like the aim is I have to find how many numbers, means how many pairs are there that have the same position, means the first occurrence of 1 is in the same position. How many pairs are there such that the first occurrence of 1 is at the same position? Or I can simply, what I can do is I can do a hashing here. Like for every number, I will store where the first bit comes. Let's say since here I have taken only 5 bits. So for now, consider that the binary system consists of only 5 bits. I will not go into 64 bits. I will just consider here 5 bits. So for this number, 1 comes in the second position. So in the for second position, or let's say in the first, since we all deal with zero-based indexing. So let's say for the first position, there is 1 number, right? Since it has 1 here. So for the next number, it also starts with 1 at the second position or first position. So again, it will become 2 since there are 2 such numbers. For this number, it also starts with 1 at the first position. So it will become 3. For this number, this starts at 0th position. The first one comes at 0th position. So 0th will become 1. For this number also, this comes at first position. This also comes at first position. So it will become 5. Akshat, is it still getting recorded? All right. Okay. So from this one, what I can say that from these 5 numbers, since there are 5 numbers here, 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5. There are 5 numbers that has 1 at the second or first position. So from that 5 numbers, I can take, like I have to make pairs. So how can I make 2 at a time? So I'll take 5C2, or I can simply write it as 5 into 4 by 2, that is 10. And since this is only 1, so for this one, like I can't make any pair out of it. So it will be simply 0. That is the whole concept. Like I have used hashing for storing the first occurrence of 1. Where does the first one comes here? So that was the whole thing. I'll just show the code. So here you can see, first of all, I've taken n as the input. Res will store the result, how many pairs are there. Then I have created an array that will store the numbers, and I have created the map for hashing. Here LL means long. I have defined it as long. LL means long int. So while I have taken the input, I have taken the number as input. Then for that number, I have started from the leftmost position. Here, I have considered since input can vary from 0 to 10 to the power 9, and 10 to the number 10 to the power 9 has, I guess, 34 bits. The number 10 to the power 9 has 34 bits.
30,
but for
30.
being in the shapes, no, 34. Wait. Oh, I guess, yeah, 30 bits. But for being in the safe side, I took 40 because I thought 34 yesterday. So I started from the left side, and I have checked if this bit is 1 or not. This is the like a code for getting the bit. If you have started bit manipulation, you should have learned that. If this bit is 1, that is, I've gotten my first position of 1, I have stored that position. That is, I have in that position I have incremented by 1. Here J stores the position. See, I have started from the leftmost position and I have incremented that by 1, and whenever I get a 1, I have broken the loop, because I don't need to see for further numbers, because I just need to see for the first occurrence of 1. So after getting the first occurrence of 1, now I only need to like NC2, that is n into n minus 1 by 2. That is, here I have taken iterator that starts from the starting of the map to the end of the map, and I have taken I second into I second minus 1 by 2, and I have added that into the result. So that was the whole implementation. I hope you got that. Is it clear, or anyone has any doubt?
Yes, clear.
All right. Okay, Rishant, you can share your doubt now.
Okay, is it still being recorded?
So thank you everyone for watching the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.